This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Hey, what's up guys, it's BenBonk and welcome back to the 19th Slimekeep Devlog. In this devlog I made some small changes and added a DJ Slime boss to the game. Also, if you're new here, Slimekeep is a fast-paced roguelike where you must kill and capture slimes to stop the corruption that has infected your land. But without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing I did was I started to draft out some ideas for the shield system, or this little bar under the player's health. But in the end, I just decided to put a hold on the system for now. I think there's a lot of potential for it besides being a shield, so I'll see about it later in the future. Next, I focused on fixing a few issues with the new health system added in the last devlog, so that things like upgrades would still work. After that, I worked on reworking the player's sprite. I think it was just very outdated and needed a few touch-ups, so that's exactly what I did. I gave him this more shaded look and added a white outline to him to match the slime pet. After that was done, I think the player looks much better, and the white outline also helps for the player to match the pet, so please let me know what you think of these changes. Next, I got a lot of feedback about the Slimekeep flamethrower, especially how it retracted and looked unnatural, which I understand. So I fixed this issue, and now the mech's flamethrower retracts outwards instead of inwards. Another change I made to the mech slime was the look and flamethrower position. Toasted Toast made some pretty neat improvements to the mech slime's look, and also fixed the mech slime's flamethrower from flipping awkwardly. Huge thanks to Toast, and with these changes implemented, I think the mech boss looks a bit better. Also, before I continue, I just want to announce that I'm hosting the third BenBonk Game Jam from June 25th to June 28th. It's a simple 3-day long jam with a theme, and I really hope to see you there. The link is in the description if you're interested. Anyways, with that done, I figured I would improve the player's weapon rotation. Tech in my Discord server actually created this pretty neat weapon rotation system that I think is miles above the old system. So he sent me the code, and now the weapon rotation was looking really good in my opinion. Everything just feels so much more natural and smooth. Tech also made the simple recoil system for the gun that I modified slightly, and again, I think this recoil is much better than the old scuffed recoil system, and I'm really happy with it. So thanks again, Tech. I then fixed an issue with the procedural generation and entering rooms, as sometimes it would throw this error. Eventually, I realized that this happened because the player's collider was too wide and overlapped with some triggers, so I created another trigger for the player, made it really thin, and thankfully this fixed the issue. I also noticed an issue with the fog of war, and sometimes it would just trigger early before the player enters the room. This took a lot of debugging to figure out, but finally I figured out that it was because of the rooms with multiple connections. Pretty much, right now, the fog of war triggers generate at the start of the game, once, meaning that when there are multiple connections in a room, the generator can get a little confused on what to do, as the player could enter this room from multiple ways. To fix this issue, I changed the fog of war functionality to generate when the player enters a room, opposed to at the start of the game. This fixed the issue, and now the fog of war triggers should always be correct. Alright, the final small change I made was making it so that the minimap moves out of the way during combat. This is pretty easy to implement, and it does help a bit to not make the minimap block things while in combat. Now, before I move on to creating the DJ Slime boss, I just want to remind you to wishlist Slimekeep. Seriously, it helps out a ton with the Steam algorithm, so if you consider doing that, it would mean a ton to me, and it only takes a few clicks. But now, let's move on to the DJ Slime boss. I wanted to create this boss for a while now, and I've had many ideas for him, especially the fact that he would have a song playing during the boss fight, and that his attacks would match up with the song playing. I really like this idea, so I started off by working on getting the script set up. After that, Toast made some amazing art for the DJ Slime boss, so I worked on importing that, and I also created the simple tile set for the walls in the room. After all this was set up, I think the room looked amazing. I just love the atmosphere and look of it. Thanks so much to Toast for pretty much making all the art for this boss. It was just super helpful to me, and it just looks amazing in my opinion. I then just had to spend a lot of time setting interest stuff up. I made it so that the boss room can only spawn above the player, made a camera transition that would lock the camera from moving, and make this smooth animation to the boss room with smooth damping, and I just made a way for the player to enter the dance floor. So with all that done, things are looking good, and I can start working on a temporary health bar. So I made this side health bar, and eventually got it set up so the boss could take damage. Next, I just made a ton of animations for the boss. Unlike the mech boss, this boss is pretty stationary and relies on his speakers and dance floor to carry out attacks, but I'll get into more of the attacks a bit later. Well, with the animations done, I got the speakers on the side, which I'll call the attack speakers, playing. I also got the DJ Slime idle animation playing, and I just love how it matches with the speakers. But before I continue with the video, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark VPN is a virtual private network that allows you to appear anywhere in the world. You can use it on your phone or computer and as an app or browser extension. This lets you access and unblock websites and content that you may not normally be able to see. It also encrypts your data to add an extra layer of security when you're online to keep all of your personal information safe and your browsing activity hidden. On top of this, Surfshark can mask your IP, protecting you from data theft, tracking, and more. Finally, Surfshark can also protect your connection from bad guys on public Wi-Fi and protect your data from people you just don't trust. And the best part is, Surfshark offers one account to use on an unlimited number of devices. Make sure to use my code BenBonk to get 83% off Surfshark VPN, along with 3 extra months for free. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so feel free to give it a shot risk-free. Link is in the description. Thanks again to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. Now, I started working on the actual attack for these speakers. One of the attacks I had in mind was a music notes attack, where the speakers would just shoot out music notes that would kind of match with the beat of the song, or something like that. So I set up these music notes and some basic scripting for them, and now the speakers will constantly shoot out these notes. Now, this looks somewhat cool, but I also think it looked a little plain to be honest, so I followed a tutorial on sine wave movement and got it so that the music notes would now kind of follow this sine wave pattern, which looks pretty neat in my opinion. I actually give the notes a slight random speed so that they aren't always perfectly in line with each other. You'll probably also notice this little speaker shooting particles on the sides of the dance floor. I basically set up a particle system that would shoot out for these speakers and damage the player. The plan for this little attack is for it to be pretty infrequent and line up with some sort of sound with the music. The reason for making this was because right now, if the player just dashes right, they can slip in this one column safe space on the sides and sit there. So this attack was aimed at preventing the player from staying there for too long. Another small change I made was giving notes randomness in their sprites, so now the notes will randomly be one of 4 music note sprites that Toast made. Alright, the next attack I wanted to work on was this tile grid attack, and this idea is what really inspired me to create the DJ Slime. The plan was for sometimes the dance floor tiles would start flashing, and a few seconds later they would burst up with fire. There could also be tons of different attacks such as all light green tiles, all dark green tiles, all center tiles, and so on blowing up. The process for making this attack was pretty rough. Basically, I wanted the system to be very customizable for new attacks, and the end result went through a few different previous versions. First, I already had these tiles on a tile map, so I started adding a transform to each tile manually, which was just really time consuming and probably pretty dumb. This probably would have worked in the end, but it wasn't the most user friendly to set up attacks, and since there was no actual game object, the flashing effect I tried to make looked a little weird in my opinion. So I scrapped a few hours of work and rebuilt the system, this time with tile game objects that have a script in which I can select for which attacks that individual tile should be part of. Then I can just loop through these tiles in a boss script and have them shoot up fire. I also made sure to make a new tile flashing effect with DoTween, and with all this done, the tile attack system was done. As you can see, before the tiles flame up, they flash briefly for a few seconds, and then will damage the player if the player is standing on that tile. I really like this attack, and I can't forget to thank NateDev for help with some of the code. Alright, next up, I started working on a speaker's beam attack. The plan for this attack is for the speakers to stop shooting music notes, charge up for a bit, and finally let out a beam for a few seconds that will damage the player. Thankfully, yet again, Toast had already made some speaker animations, so I just worked on creating the beam for this attack. After I made the art, I set some things up, and now the beam speakers had a pretty cool beam attack. I also added this fade effect for this attack, which is a nice touch. The final main attack I made for this boss was the sound wave projectile for the stage speakers. I made it so that the sound wave kind of waves in and out, and I kind of like it. And I also made the speaker shoot 2 times for when the DJ Slime is in the second stage. 1 and 2 attacks for the DJ Slime boss were done, and I wanted to move on to the 3rd stage. The plan for this stage was for the DJ Slime to leave his table and start playing a boombox in the middle of the dance floor. So I got to work. First I created this flash effect that plays when the 3rd stage is triggered, and I got it so that the DJ Slime moves to the center of the dance floor. I then created this boombox that spits out random music notes in random directions. I wasn't completely done with the final phase, but I wanted to create a way to stop other attacks from playing before I continued working, so I figured it would be best to create an attack manager system, because I still needed to do that anyways. So I started creating this system, but I soon kind of cut it short because I don't have any music for the boss to work with yet, which is a pretty important part of the boss's attacks. The thing is with this boss fight and the attacks in it is that it's kind of tricky to plan out the ideas that I have in mind. I really want the music to line up with the boss fight's attacks, but boss fights aren't linear. You can't just have a song play throughout the boss fight and have the fight end when the song is over. That's just not how boss fights really work, at least in my game, so that's going to be difficult creating randomness in this boss fight, all while making the song still sound good, and I'm really going to have to think about how I approach the audio system. So that's why I'm going to hold off on this for now, so I can eventually work with a composer to sort things out. But just because I said that, please don't fill my DMs if you're a composer. I'm planning on searching for a composer when I get a better grasp on the game. Anyways, so yeah, that's all I got done for the DJ Slime boss for now, but thankfully I think I've made a lot of progress, so when I do decide to finish the boss, it shouldn't be too difficult. Well, that's all I've done for the past few weeks. I really hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. Also, let me know what you think of the changes I've made, and make sure to wishlist Slimekeep if you haven't already. Finally, don't forget to check out Surfshark VPN, link in the description. Well, that's all I have to say, and I hope to see you guys in the next devlog.